everybody, welcome to another edition of Poe Community. I'm Mike Arboyd, and I'm sitting here with Mel, the draft doctor.
How you doing?
Good, man. How about you?
I'm all right.
Yeah. Tell me about yourself, Mel. Tell me your story, how you got into this.
Well, been in hospitality a better part of my career. Started up in Whistler in '93 and running bars and restaurants. And we didn't have companies like mine to maintain draft beer systems and whatnot. So you kind of learned as you go. And when I moved down to Vancouver, I worked for a company that did this as well and got more official training. And then went into, I had an accident, broke my ankle, and was off work for a year. And then when I was ready to go back to work, I decided to do it on my own.
Nice.
And 14 years later, doing it on my own still.
Nice. So you take care of businesses and...
Yeah, bars and restaurants. Our main business right now is actually offices and residential. That started up probably 4 years ago, and has just been growing. So ever since when Wine on Tap came online, a lot of people wanted wine on tap in their homes.
Yeah.
And then offices started to follow the trends in California of having, like you guys here at the office having beer on tap for employees.
Yeah, and you take care of our beer too here.
Yeah,
It's
keep it
great
nice and
service.
cold. Cheers.
Yeah, it's very cold. It's delicious. It's delicious beer. Local brewery too. It's Northpaw.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
Quite good. Yeah, like have you noticed? Like obviously this year's been crazy. Restaurants and bars obviously would have been one of your big clienteles, and probably has dropped off quite a bit.
Yeah. Well, we were phasing the other way into offices. Downtown Vancouver, we have 52 offices that we service, and they have anywhere from 2 taps to 8 taps, pouring everything: wine, kombucha, cold brew, beer, ciders, lemonade, iced tea. So if it's liquid, we can put it on tap.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
So kombucha even, that's crazy. Like, are you seeing more of a trend? Like you said, wine has become really popular. Is there, since like COVID has started, have people been doing the more personal projects because they can't go to their favorite bars anymore?
Yeah. So right now we were shut down for 3.5 months, and right now we're doing strictly residential. And it's online sales. We ship right across Canada, and we have kegerator kits that we basically put together in-house and then ship out.
Nice.
And they're pretty popular, that's for sure. Residential's keeping us alive right now, and our offices are slowly coming back online, one by one a week kind of thing. They're coming back. But yeah, the on tap with kombucha, huge. We work with 2 of the biggest companies in Vancouver, which is Butcha Brew and Hoochie Booch. And between the 2 of them, they pretty much cornered the market on kombucha in the Lower Mainland.
Wow.
Yeah, and so we've outfitted most of their customers on tap. 2 years ago, we did Vancouver Parks Board. We put in all the concession stands, we put taps for kombucha.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Who are some of your other major clients?
You got Plenty of Fish, Microsoft, Arc'teryx, Herschel. The list goes on. Yeah, all these offices in Vancouver, they all want everything on tap.
And obviously, I know you pretty well now, and you're a very happy. You come up like a very happy man.
Yeah.
You enjoy what you do.
I love it.
So
it's not work.
Yeah. When did you become passionate about beer?
I like everything. It started with beer, obviously, and I've always liked trying different beers from all over the world. When I got into it seriously 15 years ago, microbreweries were coming on, and then they were exploding, and so I got to taste all these different things. I said, "This is what I want to do. This is where I need to be. I need to know how it gets made, and how it pours, and that's what I've learned." And now, like I say, I can put anything on tap.
Yeah.
I can make it pour perfectly.
Yeah. Do you ever make your own beer?
I tried it once.
Yeah.
Didn't go well. I'm going to leave that to the other professionals. My side of it, the dispensing side of it, is what I know.
the drinking part's more fun.
It is. It really is. And like I say, I'm going from place to place all day long, and they're saying, "Oh, this one tastes soft," or "This one doesn't seem quite." And okay, I'll try that. Okay, I'll try that. That's my job. That's my day.
Oh, actually, I do notice a bit of a
yes, exactly.
a bit of a problem here. Let me keep trying.
And like we said, we're doing this interview.
Yeah.
So we're doing it with beer.
Oh yeah, no, it's quite good, and like you can tell, like, you know what you're doing. I've had this beer where it's like cold, but not ice cold, and it does make a huge difference.
Yeah.
This one is a bitter, like, sweet beer.
Yeah.
And it really, like, to some people it can be overly, like, just like, I don't know, just like it hits the taste buds pretty hard. But when you match it, like when it's this cold, you match it with like a food or something like afterwards. I find it quite nice.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So since like I will bring up the C word again, COVID, and like with the bar industry, like has it picked up at all, or is it back down like just completely?
So we're not mandated to beer systems in general.
Yeah.
Don't have to be cleaned. Don't have to be maintained. It's not something the health board looks at, which is beyond
crazy.
me.
That doesn't make sense.
I know. So we're optional, and with restaurants, with hospitality, they're cutting as many corners as they can right now because they just don't have the business.
Yeah.
And so they're not coming back anytime soon. I don't expect anything hospitality wise till January, February, based on what's going on right now. Us hitting our second wave right now. It could be even later than that.
And it's the problem is too, like with the whole, like, you're saying it's not regular, it doesn't have to be done, but it today, right now, in these times,
is when it should be done.
It is the number one thing they're promoting is cleanliness. So like you've noticed a bunch of restaurants that are still running pretty well, that their food has gotten better. Their service seems to have gotten better. Like they're getting better at it. So when bars, they have no choice but to cut costs. It's a terrible time. So they can't go spend money in places they used to.
Yeah.
They don't have it. So, but at the same time, if you're not doing the absolute best thing you can for your clients and your customers by giving them the cleanest filter system that they can get, right now is not the time to be cutting corners.
No, I completely agree with you, but there's only so much money that they have.
Yeah.
And they're getting, I mean, with putting up partitions, I mean, plexiglass used to be a dime a dozen, right? Now you're paying hundreds and hundreds of dollars for sheets of plexiglass.
Yeah, I know.
And those are mandatory. I'm not mandatory.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a corner that you don't want to see cut, but it does happen, and a lot of people that's public knowledge. A lot of people know that, and even two of my customers recently have said, "No, I'm not drinking anything at the pubs right now. This is why I want a home system." So our like I say, residential is just exploding.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're putting in, like, this will be Thursday. I do another one. I did one yesterday, and Thursday I'm putting another one in Heveston, Surrey.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's huge.
Yeah, and a lot of like beer drinkers will know what they're getting too. They're choosing their favorite beers. They're cleaning it. They're constantly like getting it as cold as they want it. Like, and yeah, I think I think right now is a lot of people are taking this crazy time to kind of do what they're passionate about and try things that they never thought about before. So that's where I think it's kind of sometimes you're on like that, almost like you're like the wheel, it's just constantly doing the same thing, and it's just going and going and going, and somebody puts a stick in it, but it's almost like a good thing, where you got to kind of adapt and change your business and kind of see the different reaction of what you're doing for people.
Yes,
because a business is one thing. Like sometimes a business owner is doing it not for themselves per se; it's for their customers or whatever. That when you're doing it for them personally, that you see more joy and just like,
oh yeah, definitely,
they're spending their money on them.
Yeah, well, I mean, my customers are just so happy to see me all the time. It's, oh, the beer's coming in today, or whatever they decide to put on tap. The last two, this one I did yesterday and the one I'm doing Thursday, are actually sparkling water and kombucha that are both on tap. So no alcohol whatsoever.
Yeah.
It's their choice. I have not my personal
Yeah.
choice. But sparkling water is huge right now,
Yeah.
and the fact that people don't want to be using the, I'm not going to say the name, but the little machine where you have to do it and you can pour a glass at a time type thing. Not the greatest thing. They want it on demand
Yeah.
and just endless, endless water.
Yeah, and on tap things are way better.
Yeah,
Just in
everything's better on tap.
everything. Like I there's like restaurants. I find like even if you order a pop, like so if they're doing it right and they have
Yeah.
good systems, like a root beer done out of a fountain is like insanely
A&W.
good. A&W,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, frosted glass,
Yeah.
and it's but like seeing like you said years ago, what about 15 years ago when you got into it, the craft industry just started booming,
Yeah.
and people are getting super creative and like when I was 19, like this wasn't an option of a
No,
beer.
not at all.
So, like, do you have a favorite beer? Do you have?
You know what? I do, and of all beers, it's not really a phenomenal weird beer. It's Sleeman's Honey Brown.
Yeah,
I love Sleeman's Honey Brown.
yeah,
It is. Oh, it's winter and summer drinking.
Yeah.
It's perfect. So that's definitely my favorite. Now, the difference between it in a can or bottle and the difference on tap, it's two different beers.
yeah,
Definitely.
yeah,
That on tap is how the brewer intended that beer to taste,
yeah,
and you get the true taste of it. The can, no. The bottle, it's just a different version of it.
yeah,
I'm not a fan of beer in a can. I drink it.
yeah. If it's there.
Yeah, exactly. If you can't get the flavor you want in a bottle or on tap, then the can has to do. Excuse me. Good beer. There, the reason there is on tap is the breweries want you to taste the flavor they created.
Yeah.
And that's why you drink beer on tap. Drinking it out of a clean system is even better.
Yeah, 100%, 100%, and you could tell. Like it's weird. Is growing up, if I went to a bar or something, I wouldn't tell the difference. Like if I got a beer, I got a beer, and it was
Yeah.
like it was doing it for not the taste reasons. It was more like let's have a good night.
Yeah.
But then over time, you can tell like just who takes care of
Exactly.
their flavors because you start liking the same beers. Like you like if you like a certain beer, you go to different places and order the same beer. If it doesn't taste the same, one place tastes better. Obviously, they're doing better with their.
Yeah, exactly. And you can see it. You can see it when it's poured. Your system's a perfect example. It's a perfect pour. If you know how to pour beer, it's a perfect pour every time.
Yeah.
And it's maintained. Yours is new. It's a relatively new system, but it'll pour that way as long as it's maintained.
Yeah.
I go to accounts. Oh boy, I go to accounts and it's just pissing foam. It's what I call tongued. It's got two different sources coming out of one tap, and I sit there and go, "Oh my god, I'm afraid to open this up."
Yeah.
And when you do, it's just bacteria built into the faucet, and fruit flies have died in there, and it's unbelievable the stuff I've seen.
Yeah.
Absolutely unbelievable.
And it's like, is the health board even busting into that? Like, they're not like cracking open the kegerators at all and looking into that. It's bizarre because it's almost like they're like, oh, it's alcohol. People will drink it no matter what.
I don't know what the reasoning is behind it, but I just can't believe a consumable product like beer is not regulated by the health board.
Yeah.
It makes no sense to me whatsoever.
Yeah, I actually know somebody that like won't drink on tap beer. Like he just won't.
Yeah.
He goes to any restaurants, bars, anything. It's always bottled, just because of that. And I think he worked.
I'm the same way.
He worked in like restaurant and bars like when he was younger, and it's like kind of why like I won't go to certain McDonald's that I worked at when I was younger. It's just like you have that mentality, and once you get older and you realize, oh, this is how it's supposed to taste with like any kind of beers you're drinking at a bar. Like I said, it becomes your favorite, and you're like, okay, this is off, and that can definitely more and more am I getting picky on what I'm. Like doesn't look like it, but what I'm putting inside of me. Yeah. But it's the truth. Like I a few years back, I actually thought I developed a beer allergy because I went down to the States for a friend, like my friend's bachelor. We went to my parents' trailer. we bought a ton of beer, just different American craft beers.
Yeah.
And I would be halfway through a beer and I just felt like I was like headache instantly, just like
Oh wow.
gross feeling. I thought it was just maybe just the Sierra Nevada beer we were drinking. But then when I came home, I noticed like any beer I would crack open, I was not feeling good. And I think it was from drinking at down in the States. Like I drank some beer on tap at a restaurant.
Yeah.
And I think it like just threw me off to a point where it's almost like it was psychological or something. I took a few years off. I started drinking like local beers, kind of started off again, and now it's not happening anymore.
But it's interesting because I've heard these stories before, and I'll give you a little backstory on what's going on. So you go out, you and Aaron go out for dinner. You have a beer during dinner, one beer on tap, and you go home an hour later. You're not feeling that great, and the first thing that's entering your mind is, "I'm not eating there again."
Yeah.
It wasn't what you ate. 9 times out of 10, it wasn't what you ate; it's what you drank.
Yeah.
And if the companies aren't maintaining, the restaurants aren't maintaining their taps, they're poisoning you, is what they're doing. It's not going to kill you, but you're not going to feel great. And there's two types of hangovers. There's a hangover from drinking too much, and then there's a bacteria hangover.
Yeah.
You've only had a couple of beers, and you feel like crap the next day. And that's a bacteria hangover.
Yeah.
And it's just from lack of maintenance.
It makes a lot of sense because like I can drink like if I go and I try to drink, I can drink good.
Yeah.
I could have a few beers here and there, but like when it's half a beer and it's like make me feel like I'm like loaded and just nauseous and almost like tingly numb. Like it just was not a good feeling. And that now like a few years go past and just trying it again and it's like it has to be bad like this unclean system or something.
Just neglected.
Yeah.
Neglected.
I thought it was all beer because I'm like maybe or like it has to be all beer because every beer I was trying after that was not making me feel good. But I thought it was just, I think it was psychological because that weekend was brutal. I never felt and I grew up with a dad who worked for the liquor board. And that meant I was a teenager who had a dad who worked at the liquor board. So his fridge was always stocked. So I drank a good amount of beer for a long time. Yeah. And it just all of a sudden, like Budweiser, just like instantly headache.
Yeah.
And now it's beautiful again.
Things are back to normal.
But like there's I find that locally the breweries are just getting outstanding. Like the whole Port Moody Brewery Row. Yeah. And just like, I know Maple Ridge has there's like a U-Brew, my friend, guy I've actually interviewed. He runs a Cask and Keg out there.
Okay.
And just like in North Paw out here, like it's getting really good, and they're getting very creative.
Extremely creative.
Yeah.
I like years ago never would have thought of the ingredients that are going into beer right now.
No.
And you just sit there and go, is that going to work? Well, it does. It works great.
Yeah. I mean, there is old examples of certain beers that like kind of experimented back in the day, but they I find like just became like popular to like this generation, like Kronenberg Blanc and stuff like that was one that like growing up I never knew what the hell that was. Yeah. And then over time, more and more like just drinking beers and trying beers, and all of a sudden I'm meeting tons of other people that love that beer because it's that citrusy, more of a fruity taste. It's easier to drink than like a thicker, like harder beer. And I just, I think they're becoming more popular. Like these companies that aren't craft beer companies or small businesses are kind of becoming bigger because of craft.
Yes.
Because now these bigger companies with these more like out there flavors, they're usually a little bit more affordable. So.
No, the craft beer market has changed the way everything's done. And it's put a lot of great competition because everybody wants to get that unique flavor, and so they're trying everything they can to bring these flavors out in the beer. It causes havoc on my end, some of the ingredients that are put in, because they stain, they're harder to clean, stuff like that, but it's worth it because the end product is just fantastic.
I guess you've tried some pretty
I've tried a lot of beer.
A lot of pretty out there ones. Like I've heard some crazy ones. Like I really like fruit like infused beers, like or like North Paw has like almost like they have like a pina colada infused one, and it's just I really, really like that.
Yeah, you're exactly the same as me, more on the sweet side.
Yeah.
Um, I can't remember the brewery. I'm sure it was in Victoria, and it was a hazelnut beer. No,
Oh.
epic fail on my end.
Yeah.
My personal taste. There was nothing attractive about it. It didn't even resemble beer. It was not good.
Yeah. I when it tastes like thick and like heavy
Yeah.
and just not flavorful, it just tastes like almost just like malt. It almost tastes like just malt. Some
Yeah.
beers, and even if it isn't a malt beer. And I find when with the fruitier drinks, it's like even if they aren't a light beer, they taste like a light beer. So
And they go down easy.
they go down easy,
Yeah.
which is very good for the consumer and the person selling.
Yeah, definitely. No, and like this is nice. It's light. It goes down. The aftertaste on this is fantastic.
Yeah.
Absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
I love it because you're tasting it all the time, even after you've had your sip, right?
Yeah.
There's beers with aftertastes that are not so great, but the beers itself. But this one's a great combination of both.
Yeah, they do a good job. I know with these kinds of beers, it's hit or miss for people. But I find it really just goes well with things.
Yeah.
I haven't had. There's been a few times I've drinking it with a meal, and when we have like certain nights here, we'll like order food in. We'll stay here till late or have some beers, and this is amazing with certain foods. It's like
pairs well.
pairs very well.
Yeah.
Well, like, where can we find you? Like, where if anybody wants to hit you up to get one of these?
Online is the best way. If you were to punch in Draft Doctor Vancouver, I come up, obviously. The website is draft-doctor.com. And yeah, I've got the phone with me all the time. I've been getting messages while we've been doing this and ignoring them. But normally, I get back to people right away.
Yeah.
People have questions. Can I do this? Can I do that? If it's not to do with brewing, I can answer your question. If it's to do with dispensing.
Yeah, you have a lot of knowledge just in the industry as well too. Like
Yeah.
I know with us, well, obviously we want to do events and we have like the whole liquor license, and you have that idea of what is needed, which is
and the ways around it.
Yeah. There is some ways around it.
Yeah.
You always hear about that. There's so many like I mean, small sporting events and stuff too.
Yeah.
They get away with it, or donations. And
It's all how you sell it.
yeah.
And the wording of it.
I mean, like licenses aren't too expensive. They are
No.
cash grabs. They can be. Like, that they're only putting it into place because they can, and it's free money for them, pretty much.
It's the BC way.
Yeah,
That's
bring
why.
cash away. We're everybody. I have some American friends, and like they always joked in a way where they were being like positive to me, like
Yeah.
where they would be like, oh, free medical and free all this. It's like, no, not where we live. Now it's gone. Medical is like we don't play that
Yeah.
BC medical anymore. But no, we were pretty much American, but we had no choice on who we were paying. It wasn't like down in the States that if you want to pay somebody for medical, you have all these choices of these different plans, and you're like, okay, I want these
It
guys.
was one plan.
Yeah.
It still is one plan, but you just don't pay for it.
Yeah,
Directly.
it's a weird thing. Like you're from out east originally,
Yeah.
so you've seen the difference.
Well, Montreal. I grew up in Montreal, born and raised, and it was a great province to live in. And I emphasize the word was.
Yeah,
The Medicare was free. The beer was flowing out of every store.
yeah,
You go to a corner store, you can buy beer and wine. It's still that way today. My first year when I moved up to Whistler from Montreal, my first New Year's that I went out and I had a bottle of champagne with me and I think a 6-pack of beer. And I'm walking through the village and drinking the champagne right out of the bottle. 5 minutes later, yank. Somebody takes my bottle. I turn around and it's a bylaw officer. You can't do that. I said, it's New Year's Eve.
yeah. That's brutal.
What do you mean you can't do that? You can't drink in public. I mean, give me your beer too. All gone. I grew up walking past police going, hey, cheers.
Yeah,
And then I come here and it was like this. BC is so far behind with the liquor laws.
Yeah.
It's frustrating.
yeah. It's weird for a province that's been so like lenient with other stuff. You know what I mean? Like they're just it's a very bizarre place. I've been here my whole life, but my wife is from Ontario. I know all the stories from that, like coming to BC, not knowing about medical,
Yeah.
getting here, all of a sudden getting that bill, and like,
Paying for
what is
everything.
the hell is this? Because you're covered. You pay for it with anything you buy. You have a little bit more tax. It pays for your medical. I think people would take that choice, especially with
Yeah.
like how expensive it is here. But there's something about this place that obviously sells to people,
It's
right?
the view.
Yeah.
You can't buy that.
No.
Yeah, that's for sure. When I go back east, I haven't been for a few years, but when I do go back east, I land and I look outside the plane and I go, no mountains.
Yeah.
And it's just, it brings my mood right down.
Yeah.
And then when I fly back into Vancouver, I'm excited.
Yeah.
Oh, the mountains, the scenery and whatnot. It's a different place.
Yeah. Growing up here my whole life, I took it for granted. Because like
Yeah.
you just see it every day, so it's what you think everything looks like unless you
Exactly.
travel. And I traveled a bit, but not enough to like go see really the rest of Canada and pay attention. Because kids don't pay attention really to that anyways. But the older I got, and the more I did go other places, and I come home and I'm like, it's definitely above a lot of places.
Yeah.
For you put up with the crap we have to put up with to live
and
here.
that's why we do, right?
Yeah.
It's a beautiful place to live. The climate.
Yeah.
I mean, that's your winter jacket.
Yeah.
Right? It's just, that's the way it is. You're not bundled up and freezing to death.
Yeah.
And in Vancouver and Port Coquitlam, we're not dealing with the snow.
Yeah.
We see it once, twice a year, and that's it. And then it's gone.
Yeah.
That was our winter. It was 48
Yeah.
hours. Great. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a definitely just different. I mean, I find there was more snow when I was a kid. I don't know if that's just because I imagine it, but a bunch of people I talked to say it has changed.
It has changed. Over the years.
Yeah, because you've been here, what, 15 years? You said?
Well, no, I've total 25 years.
25?
In BC, yeah. And yeah, 11 in Whistler and then 10 down here.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it's been fun. Whistler was fun.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a different place to live. I
Yeah.
mean, I go up there, I try to go there at least once a year.
Yeah,
But-
it's a different animal altogether.
Yeah.
For sure.
Oh, it's kind of like you talk about Montreal. Like that's why that whole Whistler story is so bizarre because it does have that European vibe when you're
Yeah.
there, and that's why Montreal that has that real like European culture vibe that you can do that. The drinking age
freedom.
is lower. It's like you're walking like as soon if you go like I haven't even gone there, but just all the stories from so many people I know walking in downtown Montreal and just like how it just all of a sudden is a different world.
It's
Not
a
just because of the language.
Yeah, no, not at all. The drinking age is merely a suggestion. And
Yeah.
that's all it is. It is a great party atmosphere. Trying to get any work done's a different story, but it's a great party atmosphere.
Yeah.
That's the reason I moved out here, is I couldn't get any work done.
Yeah.
I enjoyed my beer in my teens and 20s, maybe too much.
Yeah.
But if I wanted to get serious, I had to leave Montreal, and that's exactly what I did.
Yeah.
And yeah, coming out here has been the best thing I've ever done.
Yeah.
For sure. You don't get to experience that because you've lived in the greatest place.
Yeah, yeah. We thought about moving at one point. We did like it just because of how expensive it was.
Yeah.
Wanted to start a family, just seeing it, and then instead of moving to Ontario or somewhere, we moved to Maple Ridge. And that kind of was a little balance because at
Yeah.
the time Maple Ridge was still considered like in the middle of nowhere. Give it 2 years and it's not anymore.
No, not
So
at all.
it's
the place to go now.
yeah, 100%. Oh, you do have a business partner, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you guys been working together the whole time?
Let's say yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's go with that.
Cool, man.
Yeah.
So-
I'm pretty much the face of the company.
Yeah.
I do the maintenance. I do some of the online sales, and I meet with everybody.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm the face of the company.
Cool.
I like it that way. I like hearing everything firsthand, as opposed to, okay, the customer said this and the customer said that. I want to interpret what they're saying. Because of my hospitality background, I can really understand what they're wanting and what their needs are.
Yeah.
So it makes it good when you're talking point of sale. I want my beer system integrated with my point of sale system. To some people, maybe even yourself, that doesn't mean anything. But to me, I understand what they want to do. They want inventory control over every beer that comes out of that tap. I know how to set that up. I know what you're looking for. So it's not a lot of research that I have to do. It just comes naturally.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's really good, man. Well, I enjoyed talking to you.
Yeah, it's been
really good. Really good.
Yeah,
I think we'll finish these up, and then
that was good stuff.
Yeah.
See, you should do all your interviews like
yeah, I should.
this.
Some kind of substance.
Exactly.
No, it definitely loosens people up.
Yeah.
I feel like it depends on the person, but it definitely is.
It's mandatory.
Plus, I mean, it's promoting the fact that we do have beer here. So come on down.
Good beer.
And he takes care of the tap, and he does a good job. So I appreciate you doing this podcast. And yeah, check him out. If you need any services, like anything that he was talking about, check him out for sure.
Don't hesitate. Advice is free.
Yeah, and we'll show you everything. I show you what you need to see and in order to contact him. So thanks, everybody. He's Mel the Draft Doctor. I'm Mike Arboit. This has been Poe Community. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Mike.